Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Mailbag for this Sunday, November the 10th, 2013. My name is John Campia. I'm the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News. And for those of you who don't know, this is AMC Mailbag, and basically Monday through Friday we have AMC Movie Talk, and at the end of Movie Talk every day we take one or two mailbag questions. Now the problem is we've been getting like 1,000 questions from you guys a week, and answering 10 mailbag questions a week, to a show Monday through Friday, just wasn't enough, and we had a lot of fans asking us, we want a show on Saturdays and Sundays as well. We want a show to hold us over on the weekends. So we decided, let's kill two birds with one stone. Let's do AMC Movie Talk or AMC Mailbag on Saturdays and Sundays to get through more mailbag questions and see what else we can pull off, and get through more mailbag questions and get to your guys' requests that we do more shows on the weekend. So that's what we're doing. It is Sunday. And I've already had a heck of a day. And by the way, we're doing the show live right now. We got hundreds of people already in the chat board talking amongst themselves and everything. It's been a long day already for me. It's 1:30 in the afternoon. My day started off today going down to the Disney lot and interviewing the cast of the new Disney film Saving Mr. Banks. And that was a treat. Now, I've talked to almost everybody in the film before, but I've never talked to Emma Thompson. And she is 5 degrees of awesome. She was really great to talk to. Like, I really enjoyed talking with her. Saving Mr. Banks is going to be hitting theaters here soon. I recommend it. I really enjoyed the film. I think you will too. So, so we did Mailbag yesterday. We got a whole bunch of questions to get to today. And yes, we will be getting to some Nightwing questions, because literally of the 250 email questions that I've got in the last 24 hours, about 120 of them have been about Nightwing and yesterday's show. So we will be getting to that in just a little bit, but we're not going to start with Mailbag or with the Nightwing questions. We are going to start with this question. And the first question today comes to us from none other than Benny Blanco, who writes, "Great show. Don't stop doing it." Thank you so much, Benny. So my question is about the Star Wars trailer premiere. So I was thinking that Disney and Marvel know that Guardians of the Galaxy is going to be their toughest sale to date because of it being a really unknown property. Is there a chance that Disney will feature the world premiere trailer of Star Wars, or perhaps a Star Wars 5 to 8 minute prologue in front of Guardians of the Galaxy this coming August 2014, as a way to get more of the casual audience that's not familiar with the Guardians a very enticing reason to purchase a ticket? Your thoughts? Actually, you know what, Benny, that is a magnificent idea. That's a great idea. And now a 5 to 8 minute prologue, probably not going to happen, because if I understand things right, they're probably going to start primary production, like shooting in front of cameras, somewhere around February of 2014. I think that gives them enough time between February and August to piece together a teaser trailer. I think they can do that in that amount of time. I don't think that what they'll have by August of 2014 is a 5 to 8 minute finished product clip of the film that they'd be ready to present to audiences. I think that's pushing it a little bit. I don't think that gives them enough time. But I agree. I think they do have enough time to take bits and pieces from the production, because they'd already would have been shooting 5-6 months at that point, that they can put together a very workable and very presentable trailer. And you're right. Guardians of the Galaxy needs help. Not to give any big spoilers away, but I was expecting at the end of Thor 2 a bigger push in the post-credit scenes. I was expecting a bigger push for Guardians of the Galaxy, because Disney has to know. Nobody in the world knows who the Guardians of the Galaxy are. There's a very few of us who know anything about Guardians of the Galaxy. And it is a very strange looking movie. You got a raccoon with a gun and a walking tree and Gamora and Drax and all these guys, and Star-Lord and things, like in a very wacky, alien, intense universe, very separate from our reality. So it's a movie that's going to need help when it comes to public perception, public awareness, really getting it on people's radars. And what I hope Disney isn't just thinking, well, it's a Marvel movie, therefore, just by slapping the Marvel label on it, everybody will go see it. No, putting the Marvel label on it will help. Absolutely. But you're right, Benny. This is going to be this will be Marvel's toughest sell to date for Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm super excited about it, but my mom knows nothing about them. And part of the reason Avengers did so well, part of the reason Iron Man did so well, was because even my mom went to go see them. And my mom has no clue about Guardians of the Galaxy. So I love the idea. Get the trailer. There's enough time for a Star Wars trailer. Put that in front of the Guardians of the Galaxy and market the trailer. Make sure you put out commercials saying, now normally it's stupid to put out a commercial for a trailer. That's a really dumb idea. But in this case, in the 2 weeks leading up to the release of Guardians of the Galaxy, put out a commercial and see in front of Guardians of the Galaxy the first world premiere trailer of Star Wars Episode 7. You do that, you're going to help the opening weekend. And then if the movie's good from opening weekend, then you're going to get word of mouth and positive buzz and all that kind of stuff. So here's hoping. I like your idea a lot. Hey, listen, before we go on to the next question, I want to let you know that at the end of the show, I'm going to be taking a couple questions from the chat board. Like I said, there's already hundreds of you in there leaving questions, which is great. But don't put in your questions just yet. Wait until I get near the last question. I'll let you know when it's time to start putting your questions up there. Because if you put them in now, the chat board is streaming by so fast, I'm going to miss it, and there would be no point. So just wait till I say it's time to ask the questions. Okay, the next mailbag question comes to us from Brad. Wow, I'm going to mispronounce this. Laqmberson, who writes, "Hey guys, I cannot stop watching your show." Thanks so much, Brad. Anyways, I was wondering if you think Sony decides to reimagine Venom for The Amazing Spider-Man 3 or 4, do you think they'll choose to go with Eddie Brock as Venom? Or do you think since they've already introduced him, Flash Thompson as Venom? Thank you. It's funny you mentioned that. I think me and Dennis were actually having this very discussion the other day about number one, should they bring Venom into the Amazing Spider-Man world? And then if so, how do you handle him? Do you go with Eddie Brock? Do you make it another character whatsoever? I gotta believe they are planning on bringing Venom into this. Venom is probably the most popular. The quintessential Spider-Man foil is Goblin. We all know that. But the most popular villain in the Spider-Man pantheon, it's got to be Venom. I would think. Maybe I'm wrong. Tell me in the chat board if you think that's not true and if you think it might be somebody else. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. But I think it's got to be Venom. And as such, you got to have him. At some point, he didn't have to be in The Amazing Spider-Man 1. Doesn't necessarily have to be in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. But at some point, if you're planning Amazing Spider-Man 3 and 4 and maybe 5 and 6, you got to have a roadmap plan to bring Venom in. I think that's just a no-brainer. Maybe he'll be a part of the Sinister Six. We don't know. If that's the case, I like it. I like the idea. And personally, I would go Eddie Brock. That's the way I would go. But I would have no problem if they did it with a Flash Thompson. That's totally fine with me too. But personally, if it's me, I would go with Eddie Brock. Some people in the chat board are saying Venom, Carnage. Carnage is another good one. That would make it a darker film, a more violent film. It would be tough. I don't think you can do Carnage without Venom, though. That's just me. I don't think you can do Carnage without Venom. I think you'd have to have a film with Venom to eventually do Carnage. But Carnage is a tough sell because it's so hyper violent. And it would probably really push the boundaries of an R rating. If you were to do him right, there's no way Sony's going to do an R-rated Spider-Man, but you would be pushing the boundaries of R rating, and that'll be a challenge. All right, let's go on to question number 3. Question number 3 is, Tyler Myers writes, "Hey guys, love the show. As I was watching Band of Brothers on HBO in honor of Veterans Day, it got me thinking about war movies. I started watching your show a little late in the game by the end of August, and I'm not sure if you guys have talked about war films that much. What are some of your guys' favorite films of that genre?" Thanks so much for the question, Tyler, and thanks for reminding us about Remembrance Day, or Veterans Day. In Canada, we call it Remembrance Day. Doing a war movie is hard. And And I mean, it's hard to do well and hard to do right. So I'm going to give you a list of 4 films that really jump out to me. Now, when you say war movie, I'm not just thinking of any movie that happens to have action in it, but rather that war is the background of the film. So I'm going to give you 4 films that pop up to me. Number 1 will be Platoon. Platoon's just a masterpiece. I watch that maybe every 2 years. And I'm always kind of amazed by the quality of it, the narrative of it, the horror of it. I think it's done really, really well. Number 3 for me would be, it's in the 80s. I can't remember the exact year, but Das Boot, the German film, The Boat. An incredibly shot film. Just what they accomplished in that movie. It's a movie about a German submarine crew. Just masterfully done. Beautiful movie. I believe it got some Oscar attention, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to look it up to know for sure. Let me know in the comment section, guys, if you know if Das Boot, how many Academy Awards it won, if it won any. I know it had some nominations, but let me know in the chat board what you guys know about that. But if you have not seen Das Boot, D-A-S space B-O-O-T, I highly recommend Das Boot. Number 2 for me, maybe the film that captured the horror of war for me better than any other film. If you see me looking this way, guys, it's because I'm trying to keep half an eye on the chat board as it's going by. The horror of war for me is Saving Private Ryan. I mean, you watch like the first half hour of that movie and you're just like, war sucks. War really sucks. And I've never seen a movie that really communicates it as perfectly as Saving Private Ryan did. So for me, that's number 2. For me, my number 1 war movie probably has to be the 1957 film Bridge on the River Kwai. I mean, the Bridge on the River Kwai, for some reason I always call it Bridge over the River Kwai. Masterpiece. All-time masterpiece. For those of you who've never seen it, it stars Obi-Wan Kenobi. Sir Alec Guinness is actually one of the stars of the film. It is just from a psychological point of view and everything about the characters and the narrative that runs through it. It's awesome. Easily my all-time favorite war movie is going to have to be Bridge on the River Kwai. So the 4 that I mentioned again, number 4, Platoon, number 3, Das Boot, number 2, Saving Private Ryan, number 1, Bridge on the River Kwai. And you guys have been mentioning a lot of really cool, someone's saying Pearl Harbor. Yeah, I don't know about Pearl Harbor. But Full Metal Jacket is a really good one. It's a couple of you guys have been mentioning that, Army of Darkness. I wouldn't call that a war movie. A number of people are mentioning Full Metal Jacket. You might be joking around, Tian Wang Tao Ta when you say Starship Troopers, but I honestly thought about putting Starship Troopers on there because it is a war movie, but it's not really in the spirit of, Memorial Day or Remembrance Day, whichever country you're in, as opposed to our real life war. So I kind of stuck away from Starship Troopers, but I did think about Starship Troopers. I'll admit that. Okay, let's move on to the next question. We already did that one about war. Question number 4 comes to us from Dennis Boychuk. Okay, guys, here it is. Like before I get into the thing about Dennis Boychuk, I'm going to give you a little bit of background here. Yesterday, one of the topics was about me talking about the Nightwing story, that there are a number of sources now claiming this is not confirmed. I'm still on my knees every night praying that it's going to turn out to be false. But I got a question in yesterday about the reports that are surfacing around now that Warner Brothers they're going to put Nightwing in the Man of Steel movie. Apparently it's going to be that dude from Girls, which is an interesting choice. And so I gave my input on it. And basically my input was this, that if, and we don't know, this isn't confirmed news, by the way. Warner Brothers has not confirmed this. That if Nightwing is in Man of Steel, which is the thing for the past year I've been saying is the one thing Warner Brothers can't do. Remember, that has been my one major thing for this past year, that what Warner Brothers cannot do is put a Robin or a Nightwing into a Batman film. So I said yesterday in response to a question that if that's true, I have lost all my enthusiasm for Man of Steel 2. You know I've been the biggest Man of Steel supporter. It's my favorite movie of the year so far. I've been really looking forward to it. I've been the full defender. I've been waving the Ben Affleck flag as Batman. I've been totally on board. I've been drinking the Kool-Aid. I've been riding that bandwagon. But I said on yesterday's show that if Nightwing is indeed in it, it's done for me. My enthusiasm is gone. Now, I will still go to the movie. I will be there opening night, and I will take my negative expectations and leave them at the door and go in and give the movie a shot and judge it on its own merits. That's what I'm going to do. But if you're asking me in advance, what do I think about it? The reality is it kills my enthusiasm. I have no more enthusiasm for the film, not looking forward to it whatsoever because of what I believe putting Nightwing in that film means. And I went into that. So with that as the background, I got to tell you, the reaction I got from people was overwhelming. First of all, there were a bunch of people who just supported me and say, yeah, I agree. There were a bunch of people whose comments I really appreciated were, John, I disagree with you, and here's why. And they would listen, John, I don't think you're thinking about this the right way. Have you considered this? And, I love reading different points of view and people who disagree with me and stuff like that. The really unfortunate thing, though, is there was also, out of the work came the whiny crybabies who were like, I'm talking about a fictitious movie and whether I'm looking forward to it or not. I wasn't saying I'm going to boycott it. I wasn't going to say people shouldn't go see it. I wasn't saying I wasn't going to go see it. I said I'm still going to see it. I'll give it a chance. But as of right now, the movie's dead to me. I got no more enthusiasm for it because of the Nightwing thing. Just talking about a movie. And out of the woodwork came a bunch of whiny crybabies who decided to make it a very personal thing against me. You should have read some of the comments I got and some of the messages I got. It's like, you effing bleeping a-hole. And I could just see their lip quivering. How dare you say something bad about a character I like? Those, I'll never understand how those people make it out of third grade. I mean, totally cool about the people who disagree with me. I had some really good online conversations last night with people who disagree with me and giving me their point of view and things that I should consider and maybe I hadn't thought about. And those are great discussions. But these people who just hop on is like, you lost all credibility. How dare you not say this is a great idea? Anyway, those people I will never understand. And I will never not mock them because it's for their own good. They need to be mocked. Anyway. So, agree with me about the Nightwing thing, whatever, disagree, that's all, whatever. So on the heels of that, I've gotten hundreds of emails and messages from people asking me about the Nightwing thing from yesterday. So one message came in particular that was really, really good because it kind of brought all the main questions into one email. And when it was shown to me, I said, okay, yeah, that we got to address that one question. So hold on to your seats. Here we go. This question comes to us from Dennis Boychuk. And Dennis Boychuk writes, hey AMC, love the shows. My question is for John regarding Nightwing. I almost always agree with you, but what's the fun in agreeing with me all the time? I mean, that's no fun. We got to disagree to have some interesting conversation. Anyway, I almost always agree with you, but I have some questions about your anti-Nightwing rant the other day. Number one, why do you hate Nightwing so much? Number two, why judge Man of Steel before you've seen it and overreact so hard? Number three, you seem to be okay with Bucky in Captain America. Why not Nightwing? Number four, why can't Nightwing work in the movie if they make it so he's never been Robin, never been a child crime fighter, and it's just an adult who happens to be working alongside Batman sometimes? Thanks for your time. Okay, first of all, Dennis, thank you for the question because it's great. You sum up all the major ones. So, listen, I'm about to explain my position, but that doesn't mean you need to agree with it. Like, what's the fun if we always agree? By all means, you can disagree with them. I'm not here to convince you. I'm simply going to explain my point of view, and because I got a lot of emails from people who seem to misunderstand what I was saying. So let's start with the first part of the question. The first part of the question is, why do you hate Nightwing so much? Okay, I tried to explain this in the video yesterday. I passionately love the Nightwing character. You cannot not love the Nightwing character. I tried to express that my favorite single scene in any comic book storyline in history is the scene at the conclusion of the Nightfall saga when Bruce comes back after having broken his back, he runs off Azrael, who had been, had the mantle of the bat, and blah, blah. And him and Dick Grayson have this confrontation, ending with Bruce talking about them being a father and a son. To me, it is the single greatest scene that emotionally had emotional power for me that I have ever seen. Look, make no mistake about it. I love the Nightwing character. I have been reading Nightwing, and I've been knowing Nightwing probably since before a lot of you guys could even read. Because I'm older than most of you, and I've been reading him for that long. So I know Nightwing, and I love Nightwing. But as I say all the time, just because I think a story works great on the comic book page, and all that kind of stuff, doesn't necessarily, and works in a video game. Obviously, Nightwing works great in the Arkham stuff. Doesn't necessarily mean I think he would work in a movie. And I explained yesterday why I don't think it works in a movie. But I do not hate Nightwing, okay? I love Nightwing. I just don't think they should make a movie of him because I think they would be doing the Nightwing character a disservice and the online live action Batman a disservice. But I'm not going to go into all that again. Let's get on to the second part of the question. Second part of the question is, why judge Man of Steel 2 before you've seen it and overreact so hard? Well, I take issue with people telling me I'm judging it and then I'm overreacting. I can't possibly judge it. I haven't seen the movie. I can't judge it if I haven't seen it. All I can tell you, look, you've seen the trailer for that new teenage supernatural romance movie coming out, that Vampire Academy. Okay, tell me in the chat boards, are you looking forward to seeing it? Because if you say no, then you're judging it. You haven't even seen the movie, but you're judging. No, that's not it at all. It's just that there are elements in that movie that maybe are not appealing to you, and therefore you're not looking forward to it. You're not judging the movie. You haven't seen it. You just, hey, I'm not looking forward to it because it's got these elements. So my advanced perception is not looking forward to it. Doesn't mean you won't necessarily give it a chance. You're not saying it's a bad movie because you haven't seen it. You're not judging it. As far as Man of Steel 2 goes, if the Nightwing rumor is true, I can't judge the movie until I see it. All I can say is, I believe this is a really big red flag, so it kills my enthusiasm for the movie. I'm not looking forward to it. My enthusiasm's dead for it. I will still give it a shot, so I am not judging it. And as far as overreaction goes, just feeling a certain way, I said this before, I think if you classify what I did as overreacting, I think you need help. I did not stand up and down and jump up and down in my chair and yell and scream. I didn't say, I am organizing a boycott of Man of Steel 2. I didn't say, I will never watch this stupid movie. I didn't do that. I'm going to go see the movie. I'm going to see it opening night and I'm going to give it a chance. It's just that this news killed my enthusiasm. And if you qualify that as overreacting, then you haven't seen real overreacting. So I'm not judging the film. I can't. I haven't seen it yet. And I just saying that this killed my enthusiasm, I don't think is an overreaction. I think if I took action and said, I'm going to organize people to not see it, I'm going to start an online campaign to smear Man of Steel, then that would be overreacting. But I'm not going to do that because that would be stupid. All right. The next part of the question was, this one. Third part of the question is, you seem to be okay with Bucky and Captain America. Why not Nightwing? Well, a lot of people brought up to me the whole Bucky thing from Captain America. Bucky was created to be, in the early Captain America comics, to be something to appeal to children. And Bucky's little buddy, Bucky. And do I like the Bucky character in Captain America? I do. Do I like what I'm seeing from Winter Soldier? I do. But here's the thing. I was at a popular comic book shop here in town called House of Secrets. I ended up talking to this dude, and we were talking over Captain America. And the way he summed it up, and I think he was absolutely right, is this. You're a little bit of crazy if you actually think the Bucky, quote-unquote Bucky, that we saw in the movie had anything to do with Bucky from the comic books. That wasn't Bucky. Bucky wasn't basically Captain America's best friend, big brother, who looked out for him and kicked other people's asses to stick up for him and defend him and all that kind of stuff. That's not who Bucky from the this was a different character altogether that Marvel took the name Bucky and kind of put it on him. And in the movie universe, that's who Bucky is. But that wasn't the comic book Bucky whatsoever. That was a totally different dude. So, yeah, I was okay with that. I'm not a big Bucky fan. I didn't read a lot of Captain America, and so I'm not, while I know who Bucky is, I know the history of Bucky and all that kind of stuff. It's not like I read every issue and I know, so I'm not really super attached to Bucky the way I'm attached to Nightwing. And so them bringing him in and just putting the name Bucky on him, I'm cool with that. Nightwing, not so much, but we'll get to that in a second here. I think the last part of the question here was, and by the way, you're free to disagree with any of the rationale I'm giving. I'm just giving you my point of view. You could think something totally different. And the last part of the question was this: why can't a Nightwing work in the movie if they make it so he's never been Robin, never been a child crime fighter, and is just an adult who happens to work alongside Batman sometimes? This was the biggest thing that a lot of people were emailing to me, was like, okay, John, well, what if? Because my big problem is you're an a-hole if you're a grown adult person and you take a 14-year-old child into a fight with a bunch of murderous gangsters who have guns. That makes you a huge human douchebag. Batman is not a huge human douchebag. In the comic books, it's one thing because it's fun, it's cartoony, and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of the Dark Knight comics are not fun and cartoony. But on the big screen, our expectations of Batman is that he would be an enormous douchebag to take a child into that. And if you know Dick Grayson, like a lot of people saying, forget the Robin stuff, but to really, a part of the genius of Dick Grayson and who Nightwing is, the richest part of him is understanding his history and who he really is. You can't appreciate Nightwing and you can't appreciate who Dick Grayson is unless you fully understand where he came from. The fact that he was a child whose parents were murdered and that Bruce Wayne took him in, trained him up to be the crime fighter Robin who fought alongside of the Dark Knight for so many years. Daddy issues ensued, the splits, the breakups or whatever, the going off on his own, the coming back, the taking up the mantle of the Bat, which he did for a while, and really coming into the fullness of his own. If you don't understand all that stuff, then the Nightwing you're left with is really just a shell. I think, anyway, this is just my opinion. I think you're left with a basically empty shell of who Nightwing is. And I think Nightwing deserves more. I think he deserves better. And I don't think it translates to the big screen, that story about Batman who took a child along with him fighting crime. Now, a lot of people are saying do what they did with Bucky, right? Just forget his Robin history. Just put a character, an adult character named Nightwing, change his background a bit so he's just a guy who fights alongside Batman sometimes to protect Bloodhaven and Gotham sometimes and whatever. And in principle, okay, I can live with that. Take out my biggest problem with Nightwing on the big screen, which is the consequence that means Batman was dragging along a child at some point in his life to fight crime. Change his background and do what they did with Bucky, kind of make him a new character, give him all the attributes of the adult Nightwing, but just ignore his history. In principle, I'm okay with that. In principle, I'm okay with that. But as I raised up yesterday, I'm just not sure then why you call him Nightwing if you're really gutting his history. But a lot of people emailed me and said they'd be okay with that. And if you're okay with that, maybe I could find a way to be okay with that too. But it would mean, we'd have to admit, it would mean gutting the richest part of who Dick Grayson is, which is his history. But if they're willing to do that, to completely gut the richest part of Dick Grayson, which is his history, and just kind of remake him like they did with Bucky and Captain America, that he's an adult dude who doesn't have the history of running around in the little green shorts and fairy-winged boots, yay! If they're willing to do that, I can get over that and I can live with it. As a Dick Grayson Nightwing fan, I wouldn't really be happy with it, but I can live with it. Anyway, so there's all my stuff on this. I think you guys got a full idea about where I'm coming from, and I'm sure a lot of you still disagree. Disagreeing's cool. What would be the fun if we always agreed? So by all means, leave more comments about maybe things I'm not considering or thinking about, but I think it is time for us to move on from the Nightwing topic. All right, let's move on to question number 5. And by the way, guys, after I'm finished reading question number 5, you can go ahead and start putting in questions in the chat board. Question number 5 comes to us from Pierce, and Pierce writes, "Hey AMC, love your videos. Big let's bring on the filthy. Thanks a lot. There was a lot of info released at BlizzCon today about the Warcraft movie and the fact that it's not World of Warcraft. Thank Loki that that's not happening. But the first war, which in my opinion leaves plenty of room for the movie people to flesh out the story while still being in the confines of Warcraft. Anyways, can I get all of y'all thoughts on this new info? I think this is very good news. I think this, no, I would have been totally fine if they launched right out with World of Warcraft and had like the 8 different races and all this kind of stuff. But it makes sense because, you know, they're not just thinking one Warcraft movie. They're thinking franchise. They've got dollar signs in their eyes and they're thinking franchise, not just one movie. And if that's your approach, it totally makes sense to just start with the storyline, at least a rough idea of the storyline of the first Warcraft film, Humans versus Orcs. Start there. And then you can expand from there. If the film's a success, and if Duncan Jones is directing it, I got to think good things. And by the way, speaking of Warcraft, it's being reported that Colin Farrell will probably end up being the main lead guy in it. And I was just sitting with Colin Farrell this morning, talking with him about some other stuff, which I think would be a really good casting in it, by the way. I think this is good news. I think this is the place to start. Start with Humans versus Orcs, and then you can bring in other races. You can bring in other storylines. You can get to the Lich King stuff. You can get to all of that stuff as you progress. Humans versus Orcs, great place to start. I like the news. All right, so here is my final email question for the day, and then we'll get over to the chat board and take some stuff. You can start putting your questions, by the way. I'll get to as many as that I can. The final email question comes to us today from Jonathan Bell, who writes, because of Star Wars Episode 7, should Universal Pictures consider moving the release date for Warcraft the week before it? I think Warcraft would bomb, might anyway, if it keeps its current date. For those of you who don't know what Jonathan's talking about, right now, World of Warcraft is tentatively scheduled to open up right about the same time as the new Star Wars movie, December 2015. Maybe even on the same weekend. I have to double check that. So the question is, would Universal be wise to move Warcraft off the date? You never want to be the one to blink if you're playing chicken, but here's the reality. Warcraft is riding a very nice 10-speed bike. Star Wars is a huge 18-wheeler rig barreling down the highway at 200 miles an hour. You don't want to play chicken with the 18-wheeler rig barreling down the highway 200 miles per hour when you're on a really nice 10-speed bike. Doesn't matter how nice the 10-speed bike is. World of Warcraft will get bowled over. Would it bomb? No. I think there's still a lot of people who are going to go see both movies. The movie would not bomb, but it is going to hurt it. If you open up that movie, because let's face it, a lot of us are the demographic that is going after both movies, right? So a lot of that same demographic is shared by Warcraft, the people who'd be interested in Warcraft and the people who'd be interested in the new Star Wars. Same demographic. And for those of us who are going to have to pick just one, we're going to go see Star Wars. More people than not are going to go see Star Wars. I think it'd be very wise for them to move. I just don't think they're going to do it in the next 2 or 3 months. I think maybe sometime in mid-2014, you'll hear about a release date change. Either they'll move it up a month or two, or they'll move it back a month or two. But I think absolutely the people at Universal are smart enough to know you cannot open a fantasy type of movie on the same weekend as the new Star Wars movie, or even within 7 days of it, and expect it not to hurt your bottom line. They've got to protect this franchise. They've got to protect this intellectual property. You want this thing to be really profitable, like we talked in the last question, so that they can move forward and create a franchise out of this and develop it so we can have Warcraft 2, 3, 4, World of Warcraft, all this kind of stuff. And to have it come out of the gate against Star Wars, bad idea. And I think they know that. I think eventually they will change the dates. All right. It is time for me to take some questions from the chat board. Now, be patient with me with some dead seconds because I'm going to be trying to read here. Okay, last one I'll take regarding Nightwing, okay? Rimastad is writing, hey, John, you were pretty hard on people for saying they need to still give Man of Steel 2 a chance when they didn't want to see it because of Ben Affleck. Why the double standard for Nightwing? Good question. the difference between the Nightwing thing and the Ben Affleck thing is I never argued with people who said, look, I know all of Ben Affleck's work. He just doesn't do it for me. So I think this is bad news. I can't argue with people about that. Other than to say was, I do think it's good news. You may not. And there's nothing for us to debate about. What I debated with people on, or people who just came out and blindly said, Ben Affleck sucks as an actor. Well, I take issue with that, and I think there's proof against that. I would say, okay, have you seen Changing Lanes? And they would often say, well, no, I haven't seen that one. Okay. Did you see The Town? Did you see The Town and are seriously looking me in the face and telling me Ben Affleck sucks as an actor? And more often than not, they would say, well, I didn't see The Town. Okay. Did you see, list a couple of movies, or people who would say, if Ben Affleck is leading as Batman, then the movie's going to suck. And then I would say, well, there's proof to suggest otherwise, because, the last movie that Ben Affleck was the leading actor in just happened to win Best Picture of the Year at the Oscars. So clearly putting Ben Affleck in as the lead actor in your movie does not mean your movie's going to suck. As a matter of fact, it made it win Best Picture of the Year. And the movie he starred in prior to that with The Town got buzz for Oscar. It didn't get the nomination, but it came close. So I would argue on those points. But as somebody who just said to me, look, no, I know Ben Affleck's work. He just doesn't, I think Amy Rose was one of those people. And you can't argue that because that's her feeling. That's her impression. I can't debate that with her. So yeah, I think the Ben Affleck thing and the Nightwing thing, I see them as two very different types of situations, but that's just me. Next question we have here. Rashad Herrick writes, what are your thoughts on the film Cloud Atlas? It was the first film that I just gave up on and stopped watching after about an hour. I was confused. I did like how the actors played multiple roles. I'm one of those, Cloud Atlas seems to be one of those films that people loved or hated. And I got to tell you, I'm one of those guys who kind of came in the middle. I didn't think it was the genius piece of filmmaking that a lot of my peers thought it was, but I also didn't think it was the enormous, overly confusing piece of garbage that some of my other peers thought it was. I thought it was an okay movie. I thought it was okay, but I didn't go and watch it again, and I didn't recommend it to people, but I didn't try to persuade people not to see it either. It was a movie. I'll watch it. I thought, okay, that had some good things about it, some bad things about it. That was just my impression, so that's how I saw it. The one and the only Edward Douglas is in the chat room. The Weekend Warrior from over at comingsoon.net. One of my absolute favorite movie news websites, by the way, comingsoon.net. You should check it out if you haven't already. Edward's a good friend of mine. And Edward writes, I haven't read his question in advance. Maybe he's making fun of me. I don't know. But Edward writes, what are your thoughts on the Oscar race for Best Picture? Do you think it's 12 Years a Slave versus Gravity, or can there be a dark horse? I think Gravity's going to get a nomination. I don't think Gravity's going to win. I think there are enough. Look, Gravity's a magnificent film to watch. It's awesome. I ate it up. I've seen it multiple times in theaters. Breathtaking movie-going experience. But because of the type of movie it is, there's not really a strong narrative that goes through it. I had issues with some of the monologues, if you will, that happened throughout the film. I thought they were kind of cornily? I thought they were written kind of corny, some of them. I just think there are enough weaknesses in the film that will preclude it from being in the top 2, say, at the Oscars. I don't think that'll be it. I think this is going to be 12 Years a Slave year. And even though I have not seen the film yet, there is a part of me that just cannot shake Wolf of Wall Street. I haven't seen it yet. I have no basis to say that. Pure speculation on my part. And until I do, which I think is going to be like in 2 weeks, I'm going to see it. Then I got to say, I think it's going to come down to 12 Years a Slave and Wolf of Wall Street. But I do think this is 12 Years a Slave race to lose. I think 12 Years a Slave is the front runner at this point. Just my thought. Okay. Omari White writes, questions. What do you think about a live action Pokemon film? I don't give it any thought whatsoever, Omari. Thank you so much for asking. Nightwing question. Let's see here. More Nightwing stuff, more Man of Steel stuff. Justice League. X Smith writes, whatever happened to the I, Robot sequel? Is it still going or is it dead? There was, for a period of time, a sequel kind of in the works. They were working on getting an I, Robot sequel developed and put together. But I believe that fell apart. And there was a rumor going around it fell apart because of Will Smith drama, but then I heard that that wasn't the case. It wasn't because of Will Smith. I heard it was other things. As far as I know, and Edward and the good folks coming soon may correct me on this, as far as I know, it's not in development anymore. That doesn't mean they can't go back into development. We've seen that happen before. But as I believe as of right now, iRobot, an iRobot sequel is not in the works, as far as I know. Correct me if you find out that I'm wrong on that. Let's see. What else we got here? More iRobot, oddly enough. Okay, last one I'll take. Boy, this must be exciting for you guys listening to me trying to find a question. Traverage writes, John, what is your opinion on Jamie Alexander as Wonder Woman? First of all, it has not been confirmed by anybody that Jamie Alexander is Wonder Woman. Jamie Alexander was on my panel at Kamikaze last week. And she happened to mention on stage that she knows the story of Man of Steel 2, of Batman vs. Superman, and that she has been talking with Warner Brothers. She also happened to tell me some stuff off stage that I cannot talk about. What would I think of Jamie Alexander as Wonder Woman? I dig it. I dig it. I'm going to tell you right now, not my first choice. I love Jamie. I think she's amazing. I don't know that Jamie would be my first choice, but then again, Ben Affleck wasn't my first choice for Batman either, but I do like the casting very much. Jamie Alexander, for me, falls in that wheelhouse of there's this collection of actresses, maybe 3 or 4 of them living in this circle that I would be totally good and happy with as Wonder Woman. Jamie Alexander may not be my number 1 choice to play Wonder Woman, but she's absolutely in that wheelhouse. So that's what I would say about that. And the chat board is frozen because of all the questions coming in. Let me do a quick reboot. And, okay. DJ Taylor, this is a great question. DJ Taylor, how come Peter Jackson gets to make a 3-hour Hobbit movie, but Scorsese has to cut down Wolf of Wall Street? Great question. I think, well, the first Hobbit movie was not 3 hours. I don't think this one will be 3 hours, and I don't think the third one will be 3 hours. So I think you're thinking about the Lord of the Rings films, but still, why do they have to cut it down? Well, because the studio wanted it cut down. I mean, I really don't know much else beyond that. Maybe it has to do with, runtime. The shorter the runtime, the more screenings you can do of a film, which means more potential money, blah, blah, blah. Maybe they felt at 3 hours for the type of movie that it is, that it could feel like it's starting to drag a bit. Like Lord of the Rings, for me, Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, stuff like that, because of how much action and visual spectacle is in it, I can watch that for 3, 4, 5 hours and the time flies. But even in a great motion picture that's not visually stunning and have lots of action beats or whatever, it can maybe start to feel like it's slowing down. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just speculating here. But Wolf of Wall Street is probably the type of movie that shouldn't be 3+ hours long. I'm once again, I haven't seen the film. I could be totally wrong about that. I'm just giving my guess. Since you asked the question, it's the type of film I don't think should probably be that particularly long. Let's see. Okay, this will be the last one I take, guys, because I get it running. Harminder Sahoda, I hope I'm saying your name right, sir. Hi, John. Do you think Ant-Man might be in the Avengers 2 post-credit scene as a segue for Ant-Man, as it is also not a well-known property? Honestly, no. I don't think Ant-Man will be in the post-credit scene, but it would make sense for them to do it. I think it'd be a great idea for them to do it. But I kind of take Joss Whedon at his word when he says that Ant-Man will not be making an appearance in Avengers 2. I wish he was. And I think you have the right idea. I think putting him in Avengers 2 would be the right thing to do, at least in the post-credit scene. I think it would be absolutely the right thing to do. But I got a feeling they're not going to. I hope they do, though. I really hope they do. And I hope it's one of 3 actors I have in my head playing him. Anyway. Okay, guys, that'll do it for me. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys. This has been a lot of fun. I really do like doing these mailbags. And you know, the only reason we do these mailbag shows is because you guys demanded it. You wanted more mailbag questions. You wanted shows on the weekend. So that's what we're doing here. I know it's just me, but you know, I got to give people the weekends off. I can't ask them to come into work on Sunday mornings or Sunday afternoons. So it's just, you know, you're kind of stuck with me. But I appreciate you guys joining me. Thank you so much. Don't forget, head on over to www.amctheaters.com for your theater, showtime, and movie ticket information. Lots of great movies playing out there right now. Go see Thor 2. I've seen it 3 times already, and I'm probably going to go see it 2 or 3 more times. I kind of enjoyed it that much. Anyway, once again, guys, thank you so much for joining me. My name is John Campia for AMC Movies. By the way, you can find me on various social media channels at John Campia. So that'll be on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. If you want to be kept up to date when live shows happen, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook. I always announce when it's going to happen. So again, thank you so much for your time. And until next time, bye-bye.